Representatives, as well as 6 years in the state Senate. On the 7th of October 1914, after a 7-year courtship, Honey Fitz's eldest daughter, Rose, married P.J. Kennedy's eldest son, Joseph, thus merging these two influential Irish-American clans. Early life. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, born Brookline, Mass., 83 Beale Street, May 29, 1917. With these few simple words, handwritten on a note card, Rose Kennedy recorded the birth of her second son, a handsome, blue-eyed boy who, although named after his maternal grandfather, would become known as Jack. The family's fortunes had continued to improve in the 3 years since the Fitzgerald Kennedy marriage. By the time of Jack's birth, they lived a comfortable upper-middle-class life in the Boston suburb of Brookline. Over the years, Joe would successfully try his hand at a number of businesses, including stock market speculation, movie producing, and liquor importation. By 1927, the family had moved to the exclusive suburb of Riverdale, New York. Despite the privileged circumstances of his birth, Jack was unlucky in his health. A sickly child, he suffered from numerous childhood illnesses, including whooping cough, chickenpox, and measles. And then, 3 months shy of his 3rd birthday, Jack contracted a virulent strain of scarlet fever, a potentially deadly disease in these days prior to the discovery of penicillin. For a time, it appeared that Jack would succumb to the illness, but after a month in hospital, he began to recover. He would continue to struggle with ill health for the rest of his life. Despite spending much of his childhood confined to a hospital bed or cooped up in a sanatorium, Jack did manage to attend school. In 1931, after a brief and unhappy stint at the Catholic Canterbury High School, the 14-year-old boy enrolled at Coate, an exclusive Episcopalian boarding school in Connecticut. At Coate, Jack excelled socially and, to a lesser extent, academically. He made friends easily, and despite being a disruptive influence in class, scored relatively well in tests. His schoolmasters, however, were exasperated by his unwillingness to take instruction, resulting in his near expulsion on at least one occasion. Before leaving Coate in 1935, graduating 65th out of his class of 110, Jack was interviewed by a school psychologist about his obstreperous behavior. During this conversation, the 17-year-old Jack revealed, perhaps inadvertently, feelings of inadequacy. "If my brother were not so efficient, it would be easier for me to be efficient," he said. "He does it much better than I do." The brother referred to here is Joseph Jr., Jack's elder brother. Sharing his father's outlook and disposition, and being more robust than his sibling, Joe Jr. had always been Joe Sr.'s favored son, thus bearing the weight of his family's considerable expectations. In fact, not long after Joe Jr.'s birth, Honey Fitz had declared, only slightly facetiously, that his parents had already decided that he is going to Harvard, where he will play on the football and baseball teams and, incidentally, take all the scholastic honors. Then he is going to be a captain of industry until it's time for him to be president for 2 or 3 terms. Further than that has not been decided. Perhaps due to the poor state of his health, no such plans were made for Jack. And so, although the Kennedy clan would eventually swell to 9 children, Joe Jr. was the sibling with whom Jack felt he had to compete. Indeed, this atmosphere of fraternal competitiveness would ultimately dictate much of the direction of Jack's entire life. The Harvard years. Upon leaving Coate, Jack embarked on the first of numerous European visits in his lifetime. Travelling with his father, he set sail for England to study for a year at the London School of Economics, LSE. By now, Joe Sr.'s wealth had increased dramatically, and although rumours persisted that not all the Kennedy fortune had been acquired entirely legitimately, the family's social standing and influence had nonetheless improved significantly. A sojourn at the LSE seemed like an ideal way to continue the young man's cultivation. However, in late July, not long after arriving, Jack fell seriously ill, and despite a lengthy hospital stay and numerous tests, a definitive diagnosis was not possible. He returned to the United States in mid-October, when his mystery illness began to improve. Emerging from the shadows of his father and brother, both of whom attended Harvard, Jack chose to study at Princeton University.